You know, in a rivalry as old and as fierce as the Ashes, sometimes a single day can tell you everything. It can be a whole story of genius, total madness, and a massive swing in momentum. And that's exactly what we're going to break down today. One absolutely wild day in Sydney. All right, so the scene is set at the legendary Sydney Cricket Ground. Now, you might be thinking, wait, the series was already decided. And yeah, technically, this was a dead rubber match, but let's be real, in the Ashes, there's no such thing. Pride is always on the line, and boy, did this day turn into a battle for exactly that. So here's what we'll cover. We're going to walk through this day's incredible rise and fall. We'll start with a batting masterclass that put one team in complete command. Then we'll see the single careless mistake that sparked a total collapse. And finally, what it all means for the future. Okay, so let's set the stage. As day 2 kicks off, England, they're in a pretty good spot. They're sitting on 211 for 3, and the plan is simple. Build a huge first innings total and really turn the screws on the Aussies on their own home turf. But the first half of this day, it belonged to one man, and one man only. England's star batsman, Joe Root. He just put on an absolute clinic out there. And this moment right here is just perfect. This is Root celebrating his 100, but you have to understand the backstory at this ground for him. Sydney has some ghosts for Joe Root. He's been dropped here before. He even ended up in the hospital once because of exhaustion. So this celebration, this wasn't just a century. This was pure redemption. And he didn't just stop at 100. Oh no. He went on to anchor the entire English innings, crafting this magnificent 160. I mean, we're talking about an innings of immense skill and unbelievable endurance that lasted nearly 7 hours. And get this, it wasn't just any old century. This was his 41st in Test cricket. Now that number, 41, is a huge deal because it pulls him level with one of Australia's absolute legends, the great Ricky Ponting. I mean, look at the company this puts him in. This was the 17th time he's gone past 150 in tests. And with this 100, the only names ahead of him on the all-time list are Sachin Tendulkar and Jacques Kallis. We're talking about the titans of the game. Just a phenomenal, phenomenal performance. Okay, so everything's looking rosy for England, right? They're on track for a massive score. But, and there's always a but, the whole narrative is about to take a violent U-turn. One moment of carelessness, one really poor decision, and everything starts to come undone. And you know it was bad when pundits on both sides were talking former players from England and Australia, guys like Stephen Finn and Justin Langer. They all use the exact same word to describe what happened next: brainless. So what was this brainless moment? Well, it was batsman Jamie Smith. He and Root had built this fantastic 94-run partnership. And then, out of nowhere, he tries to smash this gentle, telegraphed short ball from a part-time bowler. I mean, a part-timer. He just spoons it straight to a fielder in the deep. It was called atrocious, filthy. It just completely shattered England's momentum. And the effect was immediate. That one single mistake was the trigger. All the confidence just vanished, and England completely, totally fell apart. They lost their last 4 wickets for just 9 runs. 9. So they get all out for 384, which sounds okay, but believe me, it felt like they left at least 100 runs out there in the middle. So that collapse, it was like blood in the water. It gave Australia a massive opening. And seeing just how fragile England suddenly were, their opener, Travis Head, launched an absolutely brutal counterattack that just dismantled any hope England had left. And really, you couldn't paint a better picture of the two halves of the day. On one side, you've got Joe Root's elegant, technical masterclass, and on the other, Travis Head's explosive, brute force power. It's the whole story of the day, right there in 2 images. And the numbers, they tell the exact same story. You have Root, who patiently, carefully crafted his innings over hours. And then you have Head, who just came in and bashed England's attack all over the park, pummeling his way to 91 runs from only 87 balls. He didn't just change the momentum, he completely flipped the script and put Australia firmly in the driver's seat. So you're probably asking, how was Head so effective? How did Australia score so fast? Well, my friends, that brings us to England's bowling performance, which can really only be described as a total and utter collapse. Yeah, former England spinner Phil Tufnell, he did not hold back. He gave the bowling a scathing 2 out of 10. A 2. He called it one of the most wretched displays he'd seen in a long time. I mean, That's just a brutal assessment coming from a guy who's been there and done it. And this quote from him just nails the frustration. It wasn't about some genius batting or complex tactics. It was about a complete failure to execute the absolute basics. Run up and hit the top of the stumps. It showed a complete lack of discipline, a lack of control. And here's the hard data to back up that frustration. It's fascinating, really. England just kept bowling way, way too short. Look at this, 47% of their early deliveries were in that short zone. They were basically serving up exactly what Travis Head loves to hit, and he feasted on it. Now compare that to Australia's disciplined 19% on day one. It's night and day. And if you need more proof, look at these numbers. They are just damning. Australia raced to their 100 runs. They were hitting a boundary almost twice as often as the series average. Think about that. This wasn't just ineffective bowling. This was bowling that was literally gifting runs to the opposition. So, okay, it's one bad day of bowling. Why does it matter so much? Well, because when you zoom out from this one day, this performance starts to point to some really alarming long-term problems for this England team. See, for what felt like forever, England could always fall back on legends like Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad to deliver control and quality day in and day out. But they're gone now. They're retired. And so this wretched performance in Sydney, it raises a massive red flag. The big question is, who's going to fill that huge void? This day suggested that, well, the answer is nowhere in sight. And that's where we're left, with this massive, crucial question. This one day in Sydney was this perfect little story of individual brilliance followed by collective collapse. But it was more than that, wasn't it? It was a really worrying glimpse into the future. After a day that started with a historic masterpiece from one of their greats, England was left staring at a pace attack in total disarray and a very, very uncertain road ahead.